Hello, welcome to Together We Feel. We're here for another women's panel today. I'm so thankful to have Isabella Thor and Jen Johnson with me. Isabella and Jen have both been guests on my podcast. Isabella's been on multiple panels with me over the last couple of years. I'm so thankful to have them both here. We are talking about women in medicine, caring for yourself while caring for everyone else. This is a topic that I felt like I've talked to enough of you in the medical industry over the last few years on my show. And I am acutely aware. I have my own sister-in-law who is a nurse. And I'm acutely aware, and my brother's a nurse practitioner. I'm acutely aware of there's some ironies that exist in the world of how you are trained and what is required of you from your working and your shifts, and how it is kind of anti what you're supposed to be promoting. It's very ironic. And so it's so much to the point that Jen has created resources for us. Isabella lives in a world now where she's really able to have better access and control to how she lives this out from the holistic perspective, from really practicing on her own and helping others do it and what she sees. So we're going to have two very different but important perspectives here today on this, because I just like, we are asking these people to take care of us, yet we're asking them to train and work in environments and ways that aren't conducive to them being 100% focused, healthy, present, not completely fatigued. I mean, it's just like, why do we have 24-hour shifts? Why do we think taking a nap and then asking them to go deal with the scariest and most unexpected medical emergencies, and we want them to be sharp and acute and ready? Why do we think that's a proper way to operate? I don't know. But we're gonna and what it looks like when you don't have to, when you can be refreshed, and how you can take care of yourself through this. If you're in this industry, if you can we all know somebody that works in the medical industry. So even if you're listening today and this isn't you, share these resources in this episode. It'll be, if you can't join live, it's going to be here on our YouTube page. Share this information. Make sure the people that need this have access to it. And let's keep having these conversations. And maybe someday somebody at the top that coordinates all of this chaos will listen. Jen looks falsely hopeful.
Miracles happen, right?
Right.
Crazier things have happened
every day. All right. Jen and Isabella, welcome to the panel. Isabella, I want to start with you. Tell me why I invited you in. So tell me, when you saw the topic, tell me why it was intriguing to you, and share with people how you work and move in your work in this world of medicine.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that really popped into my mind was just that, wow, this topic is never talked about. So I had to be there for that, number one. And number two, immediately when I thought about how I got to where I am, which is private practice in functional medicine, it's very informed by growing up with two parents that were both in mostly public and some private healthcare. My mom was a nurse, my dad was a GP, and they ran their practice for a while. They also worked for other practices. They worked in public health, pharmacies, and I never saw them less stressed than when they ran their own practices versus when they were in public spheres, where they had a lot less control over their time, and the expectations are just set and they're not really lowered. So that was the first thing that really influenced me to jump into private practice from nearly day one and do functional medicine instead of allopathic emergency hospital medicine, which is so necessary, and I'm thankful it's there. But I like the preventative side because we can have slower conversations. But then the third thing that I really wanted to share today is just that when I think about my clients that are the sickest and need the most help,
Mm-hmm.
guess what kind of professions they're coming from? They're working professionals, everywhere from lawyers, engineers, and the sickest of all are usually the healthcare workers from one side or another. And they're the healthcare, like doctors in particular, nurses, they're some of the people that need the most amount of recovery and help, and they face the most scary sounding conditions later in life that still can be worked on and reversed. And I just want people to know that, but they do need help the most, I find. So that's why I'm here, and I'm here to give hope to those people and share my experience of what has helped me, and very practical stuff that I give my clients all the time that are like that. I really need that.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting that those are the people that need the most help. They're the sickest. But when you look at the hours that are worked and what's asked of them, and these shift work and even just going through medical school and nursing school is a drag. I mean, it is. I watched it in my own family. My oldest daughter one of her roommates was a nursing student, and she was just like, oh, there's no way I would do that, because that was a path. She was thinking about medicine as a path. And after watching it, she's like, nope, that's not where I'm going. I am not doing that. So Isabella, as a child watching them make this, did you notice a noticeable shift when they went from public to private, even as a kid?
Absolutely. Luckily, I was a bit older, so I could really notice. So I was a teenager when they really opened their own clinics after we moved to Canada. I'm originally from Iceland. So that system, it's worth noting, because in Europe, Western Europe, a lot of the healthcare is a lot less strenuous, I'd say, for healthcare workers. You can have a more balanced life, but still, it's not every country is the same. Not every town is the same. So just total amount of time that they could spend with me and my siblings, my older siblings. I have 5 other siblings, and a few of them were, or at least one of them was very, very pointedly like, wow, they spend so much more time with you guys. And it's probably because they were able to, and this was after they opened their own practice. So you could just tell also by the way that they woke up in the morning, right? Were they like haggard and not excited, or were they like genuinely excited to go through the whole process of their life, which they'd set up for themselves? So I think it's very tangible, don't you think, Jen?
I mean,
Jen, let's go to you. Because you are living the nurse's life in the hospital.
So
I always saw your face.
So I mean, it's kind of funny sitting here because I'm like, okay, like I get it. So I'm Jen Johnson. I'm an ER nurse in Hamilton, Ontario. I work straight night shifts. I'm thankfully part-time, but I do a little bit of agency nursing to supplement my income and to my entrepreneurship aspects. But they're also straight nights. So to come into this conversation, it's just like, oh yeah, I 1,000% get it. I mean, I think the latest studies were up to losing 15 years now instead of 10 for those of us who continually work shift work for large amounts of our adult life. So it's a little frustrating because, of course, like it's not like healthcare can end at 6 or 9 p.m. and start back up at 6 p.m. or 6 a.m. But it's just like, thankfully, this is what's working best for my family life right now. So this is not feeling like as much as a sacrifice as it could. I'm able to see my kids off to school every single morning, and that's truly the reason why it's happening right now. My husband's kind of a Monday to Friday 8 to 4. Kids don't get on the bus until 9 in the morning, so there's not somebody's got to be home for them to get on the bus. We're almost there. They're 10 and 11 and a half right now. We're so close to being fairly independent, but there's still a lot of like jabs in the morning to get going. So I'm not quite there yet. Yeah. But the night shifts, it is a different beast. It is, you're working with less staff, you're working with less kind of people in the background, flow coordinators, people, healthcare aides, porters, everybody's kind of at a reduced capacity during the night with the intention that, people will just go to sleep. I can promise you that is not the case in a hospital setting. If we can get them to sleep, that's perfect. Sleep is a huge part of healing and health and wellness at baseline, let alone while you're fighting something acutely. So, we would love for people to sleep. And it's not that they then wouldn't ask for things, but it's people need sleep in order to recover and to give their body time to rest. But if anybody's been in a hospital lately, it is very hard. It takes potentially days sometimes at least in Ontario, for someone to get up to the floor and get into an actual bed. Wow. It's you're stuck in a merge. Then you're listening to dinging, you're listening to us talking because we've got a new hospital, and while it's very lovely, the sound carries because it's much larger now. So the sound carries. Things are happening all night. You can't just kind of shut off the H and call it a night. The ambulances still keep coming. The patients still keep coming. People still need help at all hours. So it's a trick to try and mitigate, what do I want to eat during a night shift? How can I sleep beforehand? How can I sleep after? What works for me? What doesn't work for me? Am I actually going to get a break? On this shift, are we actually fully staffed enough to be able to get the break? Those kinds of things. So it's, I've tried to work on a new graduate nurse retention system to try and support nurses as they come into nursing. As of right now, 30 to 60% of new graduate nurses leave nursing entirely in the first 2 years. That's not just Canada, that's not just the US, that's global. So we need to start figuring out what is happening and how we can better support these lovely individuals who've gone through the hell that is boot camp and nursing school and have made it and have licensed and have made it to the other side and then choose to walk away. So that's my baby. And that's why I continue to show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I go back and listen to Jen's episode. One, she's hilarious. And two, you get her full story of where she was, before COVID and working through COVID and what she learned from that and how it bore out. And we're going to talk more about resources in a minute. We're going to go back to Isabella in a minute, but Dr. Fanny Lebelanger couldn't be with us here today. You guys have heard her. If you've been with me for any time at all, you've heard her on several panels. She's been a guest on the podcast a couple of times. I've had her back a couple of times. She is both a practicing practitioner in a hospital, as well as she helps women with their sexual health on her own through coaching through that. But when she was going through her residency, I believe it was, she got to a point, the stress level was so high, and she practices primarily gynecology, but she was going through all of her paces, and she developed seizures and epilepsy, all stress-induced things from what this environment, and this is in France. And so it's everywhere. And every country is a little different, how they navigate these spaces. And I was shocked to hear what she'd been through, because I think I had this idea, she's in France, it's bad. And it's like, nope, they're messed up there too. And how they operate about these practices and what it takes to go private. And I'm sure, Isabella, your parents went through, it's quite a thing, that what it takes to go private, and the insurances and all the things you have to do legally. And for her, at least in France, the good pay is in a lot of these ERs, and also you have to balance the stress of that. And so she's had to learn a lot about healthy boundaries and where to step back. And I use her as an example because this is not an unusual story, sadly. And part of her not being here today is her healthy boundaries of taking care of herself. Her and her husband are moving right now to a new house, and she's trying to find, balance as she figures out how to do all these things. And as they decide whether to have a family, I mean, there's so many things. Jen, you're balancing a family. So there's so much that goes into it. I think you talked about really well, Jen, how you and your husband have like, I'll work the night shift, you work the day shift. We'll meet here to make sure the kids' needs are covered. The night shift, though, I think, and I grew up with a dad who worked shift work. The shift work in itself messes with your system. That all by itself is a whole shit show. Then you add, I just call it what it is. Then you add in the stress of the job. On top of that, it is no wonder that these life expectancies are happening. It is no wonder that Isabella's sickest patients are her medical practitioners. And it's like, I think the hard thing would be like, what you know, so you almost know too much. So it's not like you don't know what's happening to your body. You just feel like, what the heck do I do about it? This is where I'm working. And this is where you both help people now. So I'm going to let you each now talk about your resources that you've created out of these experiences that you've walked through, seen. And so, Isabella, let's start with you. Talk to me about how you help these people when they come to you.
Where do we start?
I know.
Yeah, there really is. So one of the things I just want to point out right away is that I just love Jen's numbers there, and because it really makes it concrete, the shifts that are happening, and they're not improving. And one of the things that I think is contributing to this as well is the fact, and it also relates to the solution part, is that there are also more and more females going into medicine and healthcare, and it's a good thing in the way that we just weren't allowed to for a long time. But like the important thing from how I look at health and healing is that it matters a lot what will work for you if you're in a male body that responds to male or symphony of hormones versus a female body that responds to a symphony of female hormones. No matter what you identify as, your biological body will respond differently. You'll either feel awful or fantastic depending on the protocol you're given. And so it has to be respected. So we're going to talk about women specific therefore right now, because there's a lot more of us now in the medicine. And the most important thing is I wouldn't even start with, although I will later, diet, nourishment, detoxification, and mind are like the 3 pillars of health that I approach everyone with. And the thing that I need all of my female medicine practitioners of any kind or healthcare workers to do is all in the mindset bucket. We have to first get their nervous system to learn how to shift from their testosterone mode, which is produced in both females and males, and it helps us solve problems. The thing about it, though, that many people don't know, and I wish it was taught to us even in our medicine training, goodness. Okay. But it is that when a woman's body is high in testosterone, it does not decrease her cortisol levels. So usually at work, you get boost of testosterone because you're solving problems and being like very goal directed, and it's awesome. We love people like that. And then your cortisol slowly builds because you might be just stressed out from the overload, right? So then you come home and you're still like this. Testosterone is high. Cortisol is even higher. But in the female body, testosterone does not reduce cortisol. What reduces cortisol in a biological female body is estrogen and oxytocin. So learning very basic activities that you can do whether it's getting a 10-minute or not, getting some time to yourself right before you dive into housework, or recovering from shifts, like whatever you're doing, or preparing your kids for school, like Jen is probably helping them at the end of her shift. But like, you have to find things that are nurturing. Nurturing activities help estrogen be built. And as estrogen builds, your cortisol starts to wind down and get decoupled in your body and process and get out of your system. And that will help the female healthcare worker actually take a breath and then make good decisions for herself for the rest of the day. So I think that is just something that I almost never hear talked about. And it's one of the first things I talk to with anyone who's still working actively, and they don't know about this shift. And if you don't do this, what happens is that when you come home, you continue being in testosterone mode. You continue solving your kids' problems, your husband's problems, the cleaning. And that's still testosterone, very helpful and useful, but it's not lowering that stress. Your stress is just going up. And talk about statistics. Women's stress increase as they go home because of this trend of not giving yourself space to nurture. Hugs, getting someone to listen to all your thoughts for 5 minutes without judgment. That's huge. Like someone who's just lovingly like, that's right. Oh man, that sounds hard. Can I give you a hug? Okay, what else? Tell me more. 5 minutes of that can feel incredible to a female body. And huge boosts of estrogen and oxytocin are released. And all she needs at the end, and you have to train your husbands to do this, ladies, or your partners, if they are more masculine orientated. They can't solve your problems when you describe them, okay? You have to get them to be like, honey, the best way you can help me right now, solve a problem, is by just sharing like empathy with me, giving me empathetic sounds, and being just like holding me as I spill all this on you. And then at the end, I'll be so much happier. Are you willing to try that for 5 minutes? And then while it's happening, they're like, okay, I'm just helping by saying, oh, honey, tell me more. And they start to relax. In the beginning, men are a little bit like, oh, but we can solve that problem with this and that solution. And they start to relax after a few weeks, I usually find. And they're like, wow, it can be so helpful just by listening for a few minutes. So that was a lot to take in probably, but I just, I can't emphasize enough how you can't get anywhere with new nourishment and detoxification, which I work with all the time, like gut problems and healing, that sort of state, healing hormones, blood sugar, all that it just crawls in terms of recovery if your stress isn't taken care of. I can't tell you how many people I've worked with whose recovery significantly slowed down to a crawl because they refused in one way or another, or resisted the stress reducing techniques that I wanted them to implement first. It's just, I see it again and again, and especially true for women, men too. So it's a lot to take in.
But you gave really doable steps, though. It is a lot to take in. Thank you so much for that, because it's like, okay, I've got a first step, because also too, if you're working a night shift, you got to be able to go home and go to sleep after you get the kids out the door, so you can get some restorative sleep. Excellent. And in terms of getting sleep, you got to get your cortisol levels down, or you're just going to be spinning. You're not going to be able to go to sleep. And I mean, growing up with a shift worker, we had the blackout blinds, we had the fan, not just, and a lot of the fan had to do with the noise. It blocked out the other noise happening in the house. If you had kids at home for summer break or whatever, and they weren't, holidays, whatever it was, where they weren't at school and the house wasn't quiet, or the doorbell rings from the UPS person or FedEx or Amazon or whatever. You had all these things in place, but if you can't get your cortisol and settle so that you can actually go to sleep, it makes it a lot more difficult. So Isabella, that was fantastic. Thank you. I mean, okay, and you people go play this back to your partners and be like, this is what I need. Fake it till you make it. This is what I need. Which I am not a huge
promise me
of.
at the end that you make sure that your masculine oriented partner, the ones that wants to solve you, just make sure at the end of that 5 minutes you say, thank you, I feel so much better. I really just need to get that out. Make sure you say that, because otherwise they'll feel like you're still a problem to solve. Okay, so
Yeah.
it can go so far for masculine oriented, and people in male biology bodies. It actually increases their testosterone, which, by the way, decreases their stress, which is what you want in your partner when you come home. You don't want a stressed out partner. So.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, so good. Thank you for all of that and the science behind it. Let's say you're not married, you don't have a partner at home, or they're at work when you get home, this can also find a neighbor or a sister or a girlfriend who dude, can you just meet me for 5 minutes at this time each day? I need some support in this area. It's a really basic. Your mom, although sometimes, depending on your relationship with your mom, that may not be good. because moms want to fix everything too. But if you tell them, and that thank you at the end, I love that. These are really simple. They sound simple, but they have a huge impact. So I think that's the other part.
If you're alone, this is very important for women or female bodies. If you're alone, journaling is actually a little more helpful because we all have wonderful friends who are willing to listen to us. But when we are in a female friendship, it is super easy and wonderful that our instinct is to reciprocate. The thing is, when we reciprocate, we are it slows down how fast you can recover. So just keep that in mind. So try journaling. That's why I do that first. And then when you're in a chilled out, relaxed mood, then you can share with friends like that. Because the reciprocation has a different hormonal effect. But it's something we all women do naturally. We just, and how about you?
Yes.
Even if we don't even feel like it, and that will be counterproductive. So
then the testosterone goes back up again because you're solving the problem. Yes, thank you. So that's so good. So the journaling piece, and I have found too, if you find that writing, it is better medically if you can write, but also too, if that's just too much for you, record it verbally, and then you can delete it. You don't have to keep it. No one has to hear it. Or go back and listen to it and pick out the parts to journal about later that you really think you need to take apart more, but also just record on your phone. But I think too, and tell me if this helps, when you get home in the morning, you can even take that 5 minutes in the car, in the garage, before you go in and tackle the next part of your day. It's okay, kids, you're going to hear the car pull in. 5 minutes after that, I'll be in, or 15 minutes. I have a woman I've had on there. She has a rule with her kids. When you hear the car come in, I get 15 minutes more by myself in there once the car turns off to do what I need to do to get ready for this next part of the day. So these are all doable things that don't take a ton of your time. It just requires some communication. And then, so thank you, Isabel. So helpful. Oh my, Isabel, so helpful. So helpful. Thank you so much for that. All right, Jen, let's talk about your resources. And really, you had a point where it's something has got to be done here.
The way everything started. So again, journaling, this all loops back. When COVID hit and I was out of my mind, depressed, unable to sleep because working night shifts and then up all day with the kids and then working all night, basket case. But it was going back into my own stories and writing them out for my kids because I didn't know if I was going to survive working COVID, and going into those and really teasing out, well, what happened and who was there and what do I remember the season or the time of day or which hospital system I was in. And, imagining myself back in that scenario and reliving it, and then coming out of it and being able to say, well, now that I've got 5, 10, 15 more years experience, there was nothing I could do. And being able to tell myself that and going, oh, like, okay, like revisiting and saying like, no. It's like, the inner child work when you're, you go imagining yourself going down the hall and you open up your door to your childhood bedroom and you see your younger self playing there and you want to talk to them and, tell them that everything's going to be okay and that things have worked out and not to stress and all these things. It's just that visualization that like helped me so much. And which led to then, okay, I wrote the book on nursing intuition and how that all unfolded. It's like, well, what would I teach me as a new nurse? Because I did not get a lot of help when I started out. I could have walked away at the 1-year mark for sure, but some reason I kept on going. I don't know why. Bullies and the shift work and feeling like I had no support at the hospital system and the stress of not just learning a whole new language that was the medical language, but then dealing with these very, life or death scenarios at points. Thankfully, not all the time, but getting used to that and the responsibility of I'm carrying a license, I'm being judged at every single point, and especially as social media has come up, being judged theoretically for every little thing that I'm saying, but knowing that I need to say them so that people hear you are not alone in this and the struggle and, having moments of doubt as to whether or not you need to continue. So the journal that works within the new grad retention system, it's all about keeping track of the small wins, through every shift and, what went well and what didn't go so well. What do you want to learn more about now that you've got the time to, when you've come home and you've kind of decompressed and you can go back and look to see what did you write down? Was it chest tubes? Was it something that, pathophysiology wise that we all know that you didn't have the time in the shift to look up in depth. So now that you're home and you're zen and you're curious because, these new grads coming out, that's the peak of curiosity when you're still so excited to learn about all the things and to learn the new little tips and tricks and understand better. But when you're on shift and you're like, oh, I'll look that up when I get home, you think you're going to remember, but it's gone. The second you hear that ding of clocking out, it's gone. You shut down. It's just a protective measure. The responsibility for the moment is off the shoulders and you decompress. And that's just it. So being able to have something where you can write down and track and, did you get a break? Were you fully staffed? Did you have enough water? Were you listening to yourself through the shift? And, a lot of nurses think that, they keep aiming for that big win, that life saved or that intervention that was successful. Sometimes we don't get that for years, depending on where you work. Yeah. And what really actually makes up a career in nursing is the little wins. The first time you start an IV on your first go, the time that you knew what that medication did without having to look it up. Yes. The first time that you advocated for a patient and finally spoke up and the result that it had for that patient and their family and all those things, those moments are forgotten in an instant. But we need to keep track of them so that when that knockdown, drag out shift happens, you can go back into your own experiences and go like, no, I am learning. I am moving forward. The learning is happening. It's slow and it's methodical and it's painful, but that's new neural connections being made. It's uncomfortable to make those new neural connections. So keep going. It will happen, but it takes time and repetition.
Wow. And you've created, this is such a great resource. It's such an important resource. I love this because it's that missing thing. Like you both are like, this thing is missing. I'm going to be a solution to that. And so those resources, like I said, are going to be available in our show notes. I think that, what have you noticed, Jen? You talk about the wins. When we create something like this, we're like, okay, are people going to get it? Are they going to, what are some of the wins that you've experienced since you've created this?
I mean, just learning, honestly. I mean, there's nothing crazier than, okay, I'm going to foray into entrepreneurship. I don't have an MBA. I've never had access to, any other education based on business. And, God bless ChatGPT and now Claude, that, you can sit down and work through problems and go like, I don't know about how to do networking or how to reach out or how do I phrase this? How do I quote unquote sell without having it feel sleazy?
Yeah.
All those kind of things, right? Where you're like, oh, if I'm putting out there and I'm presenting this is my pain point and this is what I'm trying to help with, it's not sales, it's you trying to solve a problem and you putting out a solution to that you're really hoping obviously people will buy into. But what are your motives? If the motive is just sales and just to say that you've done it, is it really going to hold that much weight in your soul and fill that cup up when, what's my motivation? My motivation, I mean, at the very basis is super selfish. Who's going to look after me when I enter the healthcare system? Because, if I'm 75, 80, 85, 90, God bless 90, I won't be able to take care of myself and I will need that extra help. And if we're losing it up to 60% every 2 years, it's what is happening. You're going to be in a deficit before you even know it. So like, let's try and, change the tides a little bit. And even a 1%, retention just for another 6 months, just for another year, just for another year and a half, then those people have the opportunity to understand that, no, you are learning. It is happening. It takes time and it's uncomfortable. And, the stakes feel very high because they are at times very high. And a lot of what nursing is can't be taught in nursing school because they have to focus on just the basics. You can't learn how to read people, how to read social situations, how to talk about death and dying, how to de-escalate a situation, how to keep yourself safe, all these different things. You can't, it takes time and effort to be able to kind of pick up on little things and go, I don't like how that person's standing. I'm just going to give myself a little extra space and I'm just going to make sure the door behind me is open because heaven forbid this turn on a dime, because we all know it can. Let me just make sure that I am safe. And while that does cause a little bit of extra mental energy and a little extra level of constant worry, I know that at least that I'm physically safe. So, getting to that point of learning and reading people. And again, it just takes time, which when you're leaving after 2 years, you haven't had that time.
Don't you find that interesting that, Jen, that so much of your initial solutions that you want to tell people is all mindset. It's mind over matter, because that's how powerful it is. I mean, you spoke about gratitude through that evaluation process, what went well, what didn't go well. I love evaluating, even though I resist it every day.
You and me both. You and me both, honestly.
And it's just, isn't that amazing that we both agree it's mind first, and then we can do something else, maybe solve little problems. Like you mentioned, what didn't go well. Like you mentioned, did I have enough water in that shift? And how can I solve that next time? What do you feel like are like the next things that you have to solve for people? After mind, what do you think is the most
after
important?
mind? It's just the shift of nursing education being, you're not a good nurse unless you give everything to everybody else and leave nothing for yourself. That is that and Nurses Eat Their Young is my two main, and Nursing's a Calling. Those are my three main kind of nitpicks when it comes to how people are perceived as they go into nursing, how nursing is kind of pitched to them as they want to choose a career. You know, nobody talks about how hard it is unless you're thankfully watching the news and happen to see, you know, the incredible rates of violence that happen. Or if you're informed enough to kind of pick up on the nuances. But it's because nurses feel like we can't tell our stories. We can't tell you what nursing is really like. We can't show you because of personal health information and the restrictions on that, which rightfully so. But we need to share our stories, because maybe some of the issue with people leaving is they're not truthfully being told what nursing actually is in 2026 and beyond. You know, it's not getting up off your chair when the doctor comes into the room. It's not just slinging meds. It's not just saying, yes, doctor. There is so many more layers to what we do on the daily and what is being asked of us on the daily as cuts to other health specialties are happening. All of a sudden, now we're PT, now we're OT, now we're discharge planning, now we're social work, now we're cleaning the beds, now we're porters, now everything. You can't get rid of the nurse. So unfortunately, everything else comes on to us. And, you know, what a difference, even working in a healthcare system where lab does all the lab work. All I have to do is enter it. And actually the ward clerk will enter the orders, and I don't have to worry about it. It's just done. And then magically I get, you know, lab work. Do you know how huge of a, you know, time suck that is for me? And while, yes, you know, typically we'll put in an IV and take blood work at the same time, you're also assessing your patient at the same time, you're putting on the cardiac monitor, you're taking acetylvials, you're doing all this in like 5 minutes because you ain't got time to do anything else.
Right.
And you cluster your care. But again, clustering care is something else that is not taught, or at least not taught well. So people, you know, you're wasting time going in for one set of vitals, then you're coming out and you're charting and you're getting caught up with something else. Then you got to go back and do the blood work. And now you're being pulled in 17 different directions because you're not going in with everything that you need to do in that one instance and walking away after that.
Wow. I think what I'm gathering when I'm listening to both of you today is we need to be telling our medical practitioners in both med school and nursing school, you need to have a very proactive, disciplined self-care plan for yourself going into this, because it's going to ask everything of you without
and
apology.
You will want to give everything.
Yes.
And you will want to give everything in the beginning, and you can't.
Right. And so it's like going what's possible versus what's going to be asked, and knowing how to deregulate when you walk out the door. You like, if you don't, I mean, I think that's got to be one of the most important things. It's like, this is going to ask everything of you. So have a plan in place. I think that's got to be, it doesn't happen, but if they could just communicate that, like, we cannot teach you everything here. So much of what's going to happen is going to happen as you experience it, because every situation's a little bit different, and there's just things we cannot emulate here. But you must have a system when you walk out that door to regulate and bring your system down and settle, and that has to be a priority. And and even just Isabella's steps of just those really basic 5 minutes of this is going to get your system down to where you can actually, the other things are going to make an impact and make a difference. Whereas if you don't bring your system down, it doesn't matter. You can have the greatest diet and you can have the greatest physical regimen, but if you haven't brought your system down, it's going to have a a lot longer, harder time helping you. These are all pieces and parts of it, but let's start here. But yeah, just that basic communication, I think. And you already did it. I was going to ask you, like, what are the things you would tell people? You line that out, these 3 things, because the other thing that I've heard a lot, my friend Dawn was a patient with me. She and I grew up together. She just retired from being an ER NICU nurse manager for years. And one of the biggest things she ran into was the nurses eating their young, like thing, or even just the competition within that was just so unhealthy. It's like, and it goes back to this premise I talk about all the time. We've got to support ourselves and others unapologetically and come together and solve these problems together and see each other as teammates rather than competition. But that starts with taking care of ourselves. And if we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not operating on healthy resources. We don't have a sense of our own value. What I'm hearing is like, okay, if you're out there and you're thinking about this route or you're in this route, your number one priority's got to be coming up with a way to take care of you in a way that allows you to settle, refill, restore.
Yes.
Because, like Jen said, when we get into the hospital, I want to know that the person that's taking care of me is not fried, not frazzled, not only a year into the job, that the nurse manager isn't training the 55th nurse and frazzled from that. I mean, I want to know that these people are fully focused and able to take care of me.
I really appreciate that. Also, that Jen, like, her next problem to solve was, the first, it's the mindset of that practitioner or worker, but then we need the social piece. The social piece needs to change. And I really appreciate that you said that, Jen. And I think even more so because you're actually also doing something about it from your work, which I admire deeply. And so when people say we need to change the social thing and then they don't actually do anything about it, it always falls flat. But you do something. And that's why I can't help but also mention the nutritional piece of this, because that's what I help people with. And I think it's important that any healthcare worker knows how to fuel themselves specifically and not be afraid to fuel themselves with high protein meals, and at least a good moderate amount of fat and moderate amount of carbs too. Like, they need all of them, but especially the protein piece, because it's just it's a very basic scientific formula. If you don't have enough resources to create focused, happy, calm, optimistic hormones that help you solve problems better, and you only have enough resources to make cortisol, what will your body make? It will make cortisol every single time, because that's the lifesaver. Adrenaline also, that will get you to safety based on our thousands of years of evolution. So it's just a fact. And this is why, for sure, minimum sometimes you have to skip meals. So I tell everyone, if you're working, minimum hit 30 grams of protein for your meal. I really want to beg you to do 40 to 50 for that meal. It might feel a lot in the beginning, and you might have some digestive issues because maybe your digestion is too stressed, and that's why you can't make enough enzymes to digest the protein, and that's a different issue. But that can easily be solved too. But it just start with that 30, 40, 50 grams, and the amount of just brain energy you'll have to think about what Jen was laying out. So she gave so many good examples, like of being in danger, having an exit plan, dealing with bullying, dealing with learning, and still being brave enough to be there. And after 2 years, all of that requires so much energy. And I can't recommend enough to be fueled by high quality protein. Cannot recommend it enough.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Because we need that energy, and we will not have that energy without good quality protein. So that part of that self-care is, what are you packing yourself? And these are like things that you can grab quickly, that Greek yogurt that's got that 19 grams already, that organic, beef stick or jerky that you can grab that's got, 10 more. I mean, these are things you can grab on the go, throw down pretty quickly, down your water, get your half your body weight ounces in water in, have that water bottle ready. It's with you all the time. You're taking, you put an IV, you take a swig. I mean, whatever it is you got to do.
The skill and swig. Ooh.
Yeah, there you go. There's it's got another chapter. Oh my gosh. But figuring out ways to do this. Thank you, Isabella, for that so much. That's so good. We could talk about this all day and forever. Jen, do you have any questions for Isabella?
Oh my gosh.
Before?
Just the best ideas for handheld protein.
Yeah, handheld protein. The best stuff that I usually go to are first, I educate people the difference between the quality of plant versus animal protein. And once they understand that, they're much happier to use animal protein. But anyway, that's just a whole other discussion. But high quality animal, obviously. But so for sure, what Melissa mentioned is really good. The beef sticks, if you're not allergic or sensitive to any of those spices or anything like that. And there are a few protein bars in the market that are high enough in protein if you have two, and they don't have too much of the other stuff if you have two. Like Bulletproof is a very good brand for that.
Okay.
So I'd stock up on that. But but actually before that, it's much your body likes whole protein a lot better. So I like having people try the beef sticks first, and anything like that. It could be other animals too, but that seems to digest a bit slower and then last longer. And it's the difference between, because you could have lots of protein and it's completely powder, and it's a bunch of protein, but your body digest it very quickly because it's kind of pre-processed. So it's a difference between having energy for 3 hours and then starting to think and wonder about food and get distracted, versus having it for 4 or 5 hours and then having that urge to have something again and getting distracted and lowering your energy. Losing energy. But my favorite is teaching people how to make homemade yogurt, and then adding collagen to those things. And I show people very portable little containers that they can just literally squeeze into their mouth. They don't have to open. They don't need a utensil if they have to be on the go. And then they get that dose. It's awesome. And of course, if you make homemade yogurt, you can also control different bacteria species, some of which reduce autoimmunity, reduce stress, reduce accumulation of fat in the wrong places. There's so many beautiful things you can do nutritionally, which is why I specialized in nutrition and lifestyle medicine in particular. So I hope that's helpful, especially no utensils, I get that.
Just because if you're out on transfer or you get stuck or whatever, or you're just sitting at your desk and you have a couple of moments where you can kind of hide and quickie eat because you know that a break's not coming.
Exactly. And suddenly you're all alone. Nobody's coming.
Yes.
Yeah. 100%.
Thank you for that.
If you need more specific examples, I've always had this guide on my website. Anyone can access it for free. It's at isabellathor.com/protein and -formula. So protein -formula. It's very, very full of examples.
And that will be on our show notes. So you guys everybody listening could go back and copy that. Yeah, I was able to, my daughter actually told me about this a couple years ago, and it's even good when you're traveling too. Is I always take chomps with me, and chomps are grass-fed beef sticks. They also have them turkey if you don't want beef, and it's grass-fed. You can get them at Trader Joe's. You can get them at Sprouts if you're here in the U.S. I don't know if Canada has. Do you guys have Trader Joe's? I don't know if you guys do. Okay, but look,
we've got nothing. Next to nothing, and then there's a farm beside that.
Chomps online and look up Chomps.
Oh, okay.
And they're grass fed, and they're real. And you just grab. They have been a lifesaver for me. I can grab that and have a quick Greek yogurt. I put collagen in my coffee every morning.
Ooh.
Great.
It's a great way to get it. So if you need a coffee hit and you don't, you didn't have time to do the homemade yogurt, put that collagen in your coffee. It mixes like you can't even tell. It's not clumpy like protein powders. It mixes, blends.
I know.
Really
I've been trying to add protein powder into my coffee, and I'm just like, this is not.
It doesn't work.
Not going.
It doesn't work.
Bless
it just
you,
isn't
Jen,
mix.
for trying. Bless you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I've got Thorn, which is a pretty good one. It's a good, animal-based one, but I'm same. So I ended up putting it in my yogurt or my oatmeal. But no, the collagen can mix in your coffee.
Internationally, amazing company recently came up about last year. It's called Lineage Provisions. They do amazing quality grass-fed, grass-finished, ship all over the world. You can really stock up on them. Sticks and like lots of like carryable snacks with high protein. And actually they mix organ powder into the sticks too. So you actually get really high quality beef organs, which is another part of nutrition. Are you getting enough micronutrients, minerals, vitamins? They're like the spark plugs of your car. Like you don't want to just check the tire pressure before you leave for work when you use your car. You want to make sure you have the fuel, motor oil, and man, there's so much more. So, but I think Jen and I both agree, and Melissa, 100%, that you got to start with the mind. Because I promise you, I've seen it so many times, all that good nutrition can be used to make cortisol or like the useful hormones and neurotransmitters that keep you creative, engaged, problem solving in that engaged mode rather than hyper stressed, hyperventilating kind of mode.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's not a surprise when we talk about all this. It's not a surprise that we see higher diabetic rates, autoimmune rates, heart attack rates in our medical practitioners, because everything we talked about impacts that piece of how we process, how our metabolism works. If our cortisol levels are sky high, our metabolism is not going to be operating at the level that it should be operating at. I mean, you can't, if your testosterone levels are out of whack. I mean, these things all play it, and knowing, thank you so much, Isabella, for distinguishing the difference between female and male bodies. I mean, they are different. They do process differently. There's only been research done on female bodies since the early 90s. I mean, which is the absurdity is still so, and so we're still learning. Like, this is still a process that we're learning about regularly.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. True. Okay, we are almost to the 1 hour point, so I want to wrap this up. And we could talk about this forever.
Wow, that was quick.
We could go on.
I know. Time flies when you're learning and having fun and sharing such important, vital information. So, Isabella, tell people where they can find you and follow you. I'm hoping you get massive amounts of people that you can manage with your, but getting these resources, and because it's so important where people can find you and follow you.
No, absolutely. It's really simple. Right now, best way to find me is on my website. And I basically only communicate through email, and that's where I've done for years. And it's kept me real busy in a good, engaged way.
Yes.
So I'm at isabellathor.com. And I specifically have transitioned into working a lot more with females who really want to be at their ideal weight, but not only that, they want to do it from a place of their inner vitality. There's a lot of women who struggle with fertility issues. There's a lot of women who struggle with pre-diabetes markers, perimenopause, and really rough menopause and all that stuff. And one of the biggest things I'm doing right now is helping women see how wonderful they can feel without being on HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy, so I want them to know that they can have that inner vitality from within. And it's so possible. And it has a lot to do with that hormonal play that I talked about earlier, because one of the things I really was desperate to add into this conversation, because it is never said, is that after we go through menopause, specifically for females, this is important for especially healthcare workers, your ovaries shut down. That's true. And so some of your female sex hormone production shuts down too. However, your adrenal glands take over. So your hormones will continue to be produced, but at a different scale. So you're not, obviously. However, your adrenals are also in charge of making your stress hormones. So guess what they'll do if they're too busy or under-resourced, only making stress hormones? They can't produce those female sex hormones, which in a female body produces health and well-being in ideal proportions. Wow. And that's why so many women today and they're feeling good. And I like women feeling good on HRT, but I don't like that they're not being told that they can actually recreate that inner vitality by learning the hormonal dance and nutrition that goes along with it. So yeah, that's what I do. That's where you can find me, IsabellaThor.com. I'm excited to hear about Jen too.
I know. Well, thank you for that. Well, the adrenal glands, I'm so glad you touched on that. That is not something anybody talked to me about until probably a year or two ago. I'm like, oh, and it's because something was coming up in my blood work. And I'm lucky that I do go to a more holistic practitioner. So she has different kinds of blood work than just the normal. So she looks for the extra things. And she's like, oh, we need to talk about this. And we did the whole, I'm like, oh, no one talks about that. I mean, no one talks about that. So it's so important to know what to ask about. So remember, ladies, if you fall into that category, Isabella is talking about, ask about your adrenal glands, ask about understanding them and the role they play. And if not, Isabella helps people all over the world. Absolutely. You don't have to go up to Canada to visit her. You can email her. She's got so many resources on her website. Even just the freebie stuff that she has is fantastic. But she's there as a resource. So thank you so much for that. Thank you for bringing that up.
I just wanted to leave one note. You can absolutely have started hormone replacement therapy and go off it successful and feel awesome. I've had multiple cases where even the transition wasn't an issue. And so I just want you to know, a lot of doctors will tell you, other practitioners, that if once you start, you cannot stop. Yeah. And I haven't seen that to be the case. So just wanted to leave that there. But yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Absolutely. And it's so important we know we have choices and options, and that there's other things we can investigate and be curious about and see what works for your body and allows you to live healthy and thrive. And because there's many of our female practitioners will go back into a more of a full-time mode when the kids are grown, if they have kids, when they've moved. So it's not uncommon to see women really showing up at a different level in their practices in their 50s and 60s, because now they've got the time to do that. And these other factors that come into play in their health are so important that they be addressed properly so they can continue to show up that way.
Yeah. What was it? Oprah was like, 50s was everything I was hoping to be, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that sounds good.
I know. I'm in mine right now. I'm right in the middle of mine right now. And it's right in, I feel like I'm in my creative sweet spot. So there's ways to continue to do and thrive beyond and knowing what the resources are. Jen, where can people find you and follow you and get access to you? If they want you to come speak or get access to your resources, what does that look like?
So my website, NurseJenn, JENN.ca, is primarily a great way to just kind of connect. TikTok, Instagram, both at ernurse.jen, JENN. I will speak. If you're looking for the free pilot program, I'm offering right now, 30 to 60 days of the free pilot program to try and support the nurses as we go. Again, my goal is not to get out of nursing. This is we need to support the nurses now. That's not the shtick. So yeah, by all means, if anybody's interested in trying it out, there is an app that will be coming down the pipelines to try and mitigate the two into one, try and make things a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, I am straight night, so if you don't get an immediate reply, please forgive me. I'm probably sleeping.
Yes, exactly. And we want you to do that. So you're
and I need to sleep.
Yeah.
The sleep is a non-negotiable.
Absolutely. No kidding. The sleep is a non-negotiable, and doing those practices that Isabella shared can help you get to sleep sooner so you can get quality sleep when you need it. Oh, both of you, Isabella, Jen, thank you so much for this resource-filled conversation. I'm so thankful to you and how you show up in the world, what you provide. Share this far and wide, listeners. This is such important information for you to have and share with other people so that our medical practitioners, our women can thrive. They're balancing a lot of balls in the air, and we want them to feel resourced and supported. And when you get in there, and if your next time your nurse is a little irritable, give her a little love. Give her a little love.
I'm sorry ahead of time.
Yeah, I'll give her a little love, and just
genuine compliment goes a long way.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, oh, how you doing today? And you
just
may not be capacitated, and just a pat.
Just a
thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Boy, that goes.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for my care. Just thank you.
Yes. All right. That's how we're wrapping it up.
Takes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Walk out the door. Big thank you. I hope you all get great sleep. Go listen to this panel that I just was a part of. We've got resources for you. Thank you. All right, ladies.
Lovely to meet you again.
Have a great day.
You too. We'll see you next Monday. We'll be back here with a Come As You Are panel. Take good care and have a great week.